What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in. It is a beautiful day here in Oregon, so that means we're out here working on the new 7.3 project truck. Sitting here looking beautiful as ever. Today's video, you might be able to tell by the title of it, I don't know for sure, is a little bit of a repeat video, but not exactly the same thing. Quite a while back, I made a video talking about MPG, or how to improve MPG on your 7.3 Powerstroke, and I wouldn't have expected it, but apparently I upset some people. Now, had I known some people were so sensitive, I may have clarified a little bit more in that video, but now it's time to do that. So in that video, I showed you guys how to clean or replace your exhaust back pressure sensor and the tube that connects it down to the manifold on the truck. I also showed you guys the riffraff billet bracket piece that you could buy to replace on these trucks, because the factory ones on these trucks are really flimsy, thin metal. Now, a lot of people were upset because I was showing you guys how to do that, and they said I was a sellout and that this doesn't actually increase MPG, and I'm just trying to get money for the company and they're paying me to say all these good things. And although I do love riffraff and they do make really good quality parts, it's not really a lie. So when I got this truck, I put the Edge CTS monitor on it, like I always do with all my 7.3s, because I think it is a really good product. With that Edge CTS, I could see on this truck that the gauge is reading for the exhaust back pressure sensor. It is stuck at 29 PSI, which I know is not right, and it's showing a exhaust back pressure sensor code. And so I would be willing to bet that this sensor on the truck has gone bad, and is not reading correctly. From what I can see, the wiring on it works just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the sensor on the truck, show you guys how to do that, show you guys where the back pressure tube is in case you need to replace it. It's not uncommon if you live in the rust belt that these will rust through, and then of course it's not going to be showing an accurate pressure anyways. So I'm going to show you guys the details on this thing, show you guys where that bracket will go. I don't have the bracket. I really wish I did right now, but down the road I'll probably put one on. And then I will explain to you guys at the end of the video, this shouldn't be a very long video, but at the end of the video, I will explain to you guys why this type of thing could increase the MPG on your truck, and that I wasn't lying in the last video and I wasn't trying to deceive you guys. It's just a little quirk that a lot of people don't know about these trucks. So let me hop up in the engine bay and show you guys what we're looking at. All right, quick thing before we go up in the engine bay, let me show you guys down below here in the passenger fender of the truck where the back pressure tube connects to the manifold, because if you're going to be replacing that, this is where you have to disconnect it. So looking here in the passenger front wheel well, we can see right up in there, I will try to put an arrow or something on it, but right at the front of the manifold, that is where it connects to the manifold itself. It's just a flare nut. Sometimes they can be pretty tricky to get off. Obviously, they're going through all the heat cycles of the truck. There's a bunch of carbon and soot that builds up in the system. Sometimes they can be a little tricky to get off. A little penetrating oil or WD-40 isn't a bad idea. Now let's go up in the engine bay. Alrighty guys, so up here in the engine bay, this is an early 99 Super Duty engine. That being said, I believe this should be the exact same for all Super Duty 7.3s, and the OBS ones I think will be a little bit different, but it should be close enough that you guys can figure it out based on this video. So where we're looking is right up here in the front, right here behind one of your idler pulleys on the front of your HPOP reservoir is your exhaust back pressure sensor. That tube comes up. Let's see if I can get you an angle. That tube comes up right here. Got the flare nut there, and then you got this metal bracket that kind of connects the sensor to the back pressure tube, and this is the sensor that we are going to be replacing. So this bracket here, you can see, is very thin metal, and it actually is the same HPOP bolt cover that's right there. And the reason that I tell you guys that the riffraff back pressure sensor HPOP cover plate is a much better option is that is very thin metal. And as you guys can imagine, like I was saying, these tubes and sensors can get pretty corroded onto these trucks, especially if you live somewhere where it snows a lot. Now, when you're trying to break off or break free the sensor or the tube, it's not uncommon for you to completely or start to bend that thin little metal cover plate. So that's why I like the Riff Raff back pressure sensor cover plate. It's a really nice solid billet aluminum piece. It looks good and it'll solve that issue. Obviously you can be careful, which is what I'm going to be doing here. Thankfully I don't live in the Rust Belt, so I shouldn't have too much issue, but it's something for you guys to be aware of. It's not a very expensive part and it could save you some headache down the road. So yeah, what we're looking at. So the tools you're going to need is a 1-inch socket to get over top of the sensor there. And then let's see if I can show you guys again. You have the flare nut for the line, and then you have another smaller nut built into the bracket that allows you to put a wrench on it. So you can try to hold it in place and support it while you're either twisting off the tube or the sensor. And I believe that is a 9/16 on my end. So it's going to be kind of hard to show you guys as I'm doing this because it's a very tight space. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get this sensor off. I'm not going to deal with the tube at this point. I will put the new sensor on and we'll see if it's reading correctly. And then if it's still not getting a good back pressure number or it doesn't seem right to me, then we'll start addressing the tube issue. But for now, I'm going to get that sensor out and we'll put the new one in and see if it solves our issue. Yep. Even on my truck, I can see as I'm trying to break free this sensor that it is starting to bend that bracket. So I'm going to come in underneath and see if I can get my wrench on there. It's a little bit of a tight space because of the fan and the belts and everything else, but there, we got that on there. Get our wrench back on and see if we can break it free here. There we go. Not too bad. Right, take this out before I drop it. So here we go, a few minutes later, got the old sensor out. As you guys can see, they get quite full of soot. This one isn't completely caked in, but I remember on one of my previous trucks, this was almost completely full. Now it looks like to me that this is not the OEM sensor, which I'm guessing is why it went bad. It's got the part number on it, but it doesn't have a Ford Motor Company sign on it or a Motorcraft. So you can see we got our part number, but then this one has, if it focuses, all right, well, it's not going to focus on this thing, but it does have a Ford Motor Company part number on this. So I'm guessing that's why this sensor went bad. These trucks will chew up and spit out non-OEM sensors for whatever reason. If you're going to buy and replace a sensor on one of these trucks or one of these engines, buy Motorcraft. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to be putting this back in place and we will see what kind of readings we get. I'm not going to show you guys. It's pretty simple. Alrighty, the new sensor is in place and plugged back in. I cleaned up the terminals a little bit on the plug itself. They didn't look bad, but maybe a little bit corroded. So clean those up a little bit. And now let's hop into the cab and see what kind of readings we're getting. So like I said, we have the Edge CTS3 monitor there, which is my go-to every single time. Let's fire it up. Starts up good. We'll let that load. I'll turn off the radio. Looks like it is asking me for an update, which I'm going to do later. Gauges. And there we go, perfect. So now you can see our back pressure in that top right corner. is now reading 0, which we basically should have 0 because we're at idle. 0 to 1 psi is totally what I would expect. If we give it a little bit of throttle, you can see it moves up. Perfect. Looks like it is working just as it should now. Now the other question is, yet another reason why I like these edges is they can read codes. So we're going to go to diagnostics. Our trouble code should still be in there until I clear it, which is here, P0472. Exhaust pressure sensor circuit low. So we're going to exit out. We're going to clear these codes. And before, it was immediately coming back. Let's see if we get it again. No trouble codes. Perfect. So there we go. It looks like we are good to go. I was really hoping I didn't have to pull that tube. It can be kind of a pain, especially on your own. Taking it off is easy, but getting it lined back up can be a little bit of a pain. I've done it plenty of times, or a handful of times. So it's definitely doable, but I was hoping not to have to do that, and the sensor worked just fine. So super happy about that.
So anyways, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Let's address some of the drama that my last video sparked. So like I was saying in the beginning of this video, the last video I posted was showing that little bracket from Riff Raff Diesel, and the title of the video was something along the lines of how to get better MPG on a 7.3 Powerstroke or something like that. And it ruffled some feathers with some people. Let me explain exactly what I was meaning in that video. So these trucks rely on the exhaust back pressure sensor to adjust fueling levels of the truck itself, or of the engine. So from my understanding, and by no means am I some certified mechanic, I've just talked to plenty of people and done a lot of research on my own. Take it with a grain of salt, but from my understanding is these trucks use the exhaust back pressure sensor reading to help adjust the fueling level of these trucks. So whether it's reading like mine was at 29 psi, which it obviously wasn't, or it's reading at 0 psi, if your tube is clogged up, it's going to be changing how it fuels your truck based on those readings. So if your back pressure tube or sensor are completely clogged up and reading 0, your truck is going to have off fueling, and it tends, from what people have found, it tends to get worse miles per gallon. Now, I don't know for me, if it was stuck at 29 psi, if it would make the fuel economy worse or better. I have no idea. But the most common issue with these, because people have no idea this sensor is even there or what it does, is these get clogged up with soot over the years of these trucks. They're 20 plus years old at this point. They get clogged up with soot, and they're getting a bad reading on the truck, and the truck will get worse miles per gallon because the sensor isn't reading correctly. So in my last video, when I said how to get free MPG for your truck, that little bracket itself doesn't give you free MPG, but doing this modification, or it's not even a mod, doing this maintenance to your truck, whether it be replacing or cleaning the sensors or not, that itself can lead to better miles per gallon. And if you're going to be doing this and taking the tube off and going through the hassle of everything, especially if you lived in the Rust Belt, I personally would highly recommend picking up that Riff Raff bracket. It is way sturdier, way beefier, and it looks good. It's supporting a USA company. They make really good quality products. So down the road, it's something I will probably be adding to this truck. I didn't have it on hand right now, and I wanted to get this done before I go on a big trip this weekend to hopefully get better MPG on the truck, because I knew it wasn't reading correctly. So to all you sensitive fellas out there that got all butthurt and wound up about me saying or selling out to a company on how to get free MPG when it was a total lie, it wasn't a lie. I'm trying to get good knowledge to you guys while supporting American companies. So that's what the last video is about, and that's what this video is about. If you want to go a little more in-depth on how to remove, well, obviously you guys see how to remove the sensor, but if you want to see a much younger, maybe more awkward version of me showing you guys how to clean out that tube, I will link the video down below for you guys, or maybe pop it up in the corner here somewhere. I go more in depth on that video, and I don't remember if I cleaned out that sensor tube or if I just replaced it. If yours is super rusty and corroded, I would just buy a new sensor tube. It's not that expensive. The sensor isn't exactly cheap. I think it was around $100, so it's not something you just want to throw on there willy-nilly if you aren't sure it's bad or not. But at the same time, it can be tricky cleaning out that sensor, because if you touch or ruin that diaphragm in it, you're going to have to replace the sensor anyway. But it's worth a shot. It took me 5 minutes to get it off the truck. It's worth a shot trying to clean it out. If you have no reading on your truck, you don't have a CTS3 like I have here, or another way to monitor that sensor, one, I would recommend picking one up. They are really, really handy, and not just for your... really, really handy for a lot of things like this. If you've never heard of this type of thing, the sensor's probably never been touched in its life. Go ahead. It's just a maintenance thing. Pick a nice sunny day, go out there, take off the tube, use like I think when I've done it, I used a weed whacker line and a drill to kind of clean out that tube itself, and then I cleaned out the sensor. Just get it free flowing again, or replace them both. Yeah, I think that's enough talking for this video. It's a very simple thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it or found it useful. If you guys are interested in seeing a lot more projects going on with this truck, I just picked it up not long ago, and we are just getting started on the build, and I'm really looking forward to building this truck into something pretty sweet. So if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel and you're interested in subscribing, I encourage you to hit that button down below. To all my current subscribers, I appreciate you guys watching. I'm trying to get more videos out for you guys more frequently, especially now that the weather's getting nicer. That should make it a little bit easier. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the next one.